Welcome back to Old School Eats. I'm Derek Old School Fournier, and today we're going to do something for Easter. Now, it's going to be published after Easter, so apologies if you were waiting for this to prepare your Easter spiral sliced ham. But I realized we do this for years, and I've never really done it any differently than the stupid instructions tell me. So I'm going to take a cue from Sam the Cooking Guy and Matt from Meat Church, and we're going to do it a little bit differently this year. All right, so we've got our spiral sliced ham. We happen to get ours from Costco. This one is about 11.5 pounds. And it's funny, you know, Matt from Meat Church made a comment. This is a really economical protein. I didn't grow up eating ham, but I do like these on Easter. And normally what we would do is we would take it, throw it in the oven for a couple hours because it's already cooked. You're just bringing it up to temperature. And I would glaze it with the packet of Glaze stuff that they give you, which you add water to, which is fine. It's been delicious for years. But as it turns out, there's a bunch of other things you can do to it. And so today we're going to do is we're going to season it up first. It's already pretty wet from the packaging, so we don't need a binder. I'm going to go with Heath Riles this week. You guys know I like his pecan rub. Since my wife doesn't eat the ham, I can use this. It's got MSG. And I'm going to do a little bit of honey rub. What I've seen others do is like a honey mustard, where they paint that on. I'm going to do just the dry seasoning. I'm going to put it in the fridge, let it tack up, sit up for about an hour and a half, and then we're going to cook it, and we'll talk about how we're going to cook it next. And I got Heath Riles pecan rub. And this is a big piece of meat, as everyone who's done a video like this, which I, again, didn't know actually existed before I thought about doing this, has pointed out. It's sort of a cumbersome piece of meat, too, because it's already spiral sliced. But getting in there around the individual slices, what we're hoping to do is get it on that cooker. We'll talk about that in a second. And get some smoke on it, because we're going to leave it on there probably, like I said, 2.5, maybe 3 hours, so we get to about 140 internal. The ham's already good. You can see it flopping down here. This is just going to add a little bit of additional flavor along with the smoke, and I'll talk about the pellets that we're going to run. We're going to be running the plumwood pellets. And again, I prefaced this by saying it's a big piece of meat, because I get a feeling some of you may think I over-season things, which is totally right, or totally fine for you to have an opinion about it. But I think you're only going to get this seasoning on that outside edge. And so I really want that edge bite that you get to impart those flavors into the rest of the meat. The rest of the ham is going to be delicious, I'm quite certain. But this combined with the glaze that we're going to put together, and we're going to follow a little bit of creativity on the glaze. I don't want this thing to fall apart, which it is doing. But I want those edges to really come alive. So that's now seasoned up, and it is in fact falling apart, but I'm going to cook it on this rack. That's the other thing, is when I put it in the cooker, it's going to go right on this rack, and I'm going to glaze it around this rack to try and keep the cooker clean. So right now this is going to go in for a little bit of a rest. I'm going to put a little bit more seasoning on here, because why not? It's going to go in for a rest, and we'll get it on the cooker. All right, we're over at the Bark 2400. I've got plumwood pellets. For this cook, we're going to be going at 250 on the Bark 2400. And like I mentioned, we're going to go for probably 2.5, probably 3 hours given the size of this. I'll put a meat probe in there to get the internal temperature up to about 140. I would say about 75% of the way through the cook, I'm going to start glazing. We're going to go over that glaze in a minute. It's just going to be a thrown together glaze. You're going to see some brown sugar. You're going to see some cherry preserves. I'm stealing liberally from Matt from Meat Church on this, because what he made looked delicious. Probably going to throw a little bit of bourbon in there. I don't have cherry bourbon, which is what he had. A little bit of bourbon in there, and get that down to a nice syrupy glaze. I'm not going to put the rib candy stuff in there just because I don't have it, but I really don't think you can go wrong with this. I think you can kind of go roomy style and follow your heart with what you put on this glaze. But once we get about 75% through that cook, I'm going to start glazing that liberally all over the ham until it gets all the way to a done state. Again, done here being a little bit of a liberal use of done, because it's already cooked, but when we get to 140 internal temperature, and then we'll take it out and see where we're at. Okay, so we've got our ham on the Bark 2400. It's been going for a couple hours now. It's probably internal about 70 degrees. So we're going to go ahead and make the glaze. Now, this is the glaze packet that came with it. And I quickly just looked at the ingredients, and it just says sugar, brown sugar, spices, and sweetener. So when you think about the glazes that I've seen online, and again, I'm stealing liberally from Matt from Meat Church. using brown sugar as a base makes a lot of sense. I'm going to sort of measure if I can get that cup in there, and I can't. So much for that. We'll just pour some brown sugar in here. I'm going for about 1.5 cups. Not packed. Good thing I brought all my measuring devices out here. Now we're going to end up putting some bourbon in here too. And he puts in cherry preserves, which I wanted to add in here. I am a huge fan of putting preserves into barbecue sauces. And so I really loved his addition of this into the mix. So I'm going to get some cherry preserves in here. His recipe is on the Meat Church website. I think he has 4 tablespoons, which I'll roughly copy. Well, I like that flavor profile. Now, the next ingredient is interesting. So we had just honey, which I've got some honey, some good organic raw honey. But I didn't have pepper jelly. And I didn't have the rib candy, which had pepper. So that little heat that we like so much in barbecue to have a little bit of heat and sweet. So instead, I'm going to use some of Mike's hot honey, not the extra spicy kind. Just some of the hot honey. I think that'll be enough. Looks like we're getting a little bit of... Turn that down a little bit. Get those things incorporated a little bit. The preserves are going to add some fluid to us. Got our brown sugar in there, caramelizing. This is going to be a very sweet blend, as you can imagine. But we want it to be really sticky too, because we want it to stick to that ham as a glaze. So I'm probably going to end up having to use something other than the silicone brush to get down and get some of that sugar out of there. But we'll see if when I add the bourbon, that kind of deglazes the bottom. If not, I'll get a spoon in here and get it going. And let that go. And I've got a bourbon, a small batch bourbon. I didn't have any TX bourbon, which is what Matt used in his video. This is Jefferson's. This is my friend Ennio. He gave me a neat kit. We're going to do a tasting of that. Probably excessively good bourbon to put in here, but I'm not a bourbon guy, so what the hell do I know? So we'll do just a little bit of bourbon. Go into that mix. We'll let that start to come together. Now, as you can see, if Nick pans the camera down, this is very liquid now with that bourbon in there. We're going to want to reduce this by at least 1/4 back into a syrup, but it's doing a good job of getting that brown sugar that I've gotten over to the sides off. So I'm going to let that continue to go slow. I've got it at about 175 degrees here on the induction cooktop. We're going to get that cooking down, get it reduced down, and then by that time, the ham should be back up to about 100 degrees internal temperature. We'll take a look at the ham in a second. We'll talk about how we're going to glaze it. We're over at the Bark 2400. We're going to take our first look at the ham since it's gone in. It is looking good. It's getting some color on there. The internal temperature, like I said, is about 67 degrees. We want to get to about 100 before we start to brush it. So we're going to brush this thing all over from about 100 degrees all the way to 140. But other than that, we're just going to let this thing go and get some more smoke on it. Again, we got the plumwood pellets doing their work. Bark's been cranking along at about 250 the whole time. We expect it to take about 3 hours start to finish. All right, we've got our glaze reducing down. It's got that consistency you look for where you can drag it across. It's clear across the bottom. Like a moron, I put the sugar in. It was a little bit too hot, so I got some of the brown sugar stuck to the side. I'll have to clean that out later. But in general, looks great, and taste tests have been successful. So now we're going to make our way over to the cooker. And, oh, we got a leaf that just fell in. Welcome to outdoor cooking. The ham looks fantastic. It smells fantastic. We're going to get some glaze on this son of a gun. Probably could have spritzed this with some water. In fact, I'm going to do that real quick. Stay here on the camera. So this is something I should have done earlier. That dry rub kind of got a little bit drier than I would have liked on the outside. That's okay. A little bit of water on there. Now we'll get some more of this glaze on here. Just going to paint it on. Again, the ingredients in the glaze stolen from Matt from Meat Church. Cherry preserves, decent bourbon, brown sugar, and I used Mike's hot honey. We're just going to get that on this guy as good as we can. I know a lot of folks will actually try and get in there with their fingers, separate the slices. Probably not a bad thing. I don't have my gloves on for this run, so I'll probably just try and poke it in there as best I can. And maybe on another one of these. We're going to be glazing this guy about every 15 minutes now until we're done. And we're going to be done in probably about another 40 minutes. But that's looking pretty damn good to me. Let my cameraman Nick get a decent still of that, and then we'll let this guy cook some more. We're back out of the cooker. We got some families out here having a good time. This is actually Easter Day, so hopefully you won't hear too much of that, but our ham is now where we want it to be. We're gonna get this off of the cooker. As you can see here, looks beautiful. And as we mentioned before, you can't really screw up the temperature. This thing was already cooked, so it was really about getting the eating temperature up to around 140. That's what we did. And that is definitely hot. I'll put that down on the table. Get our cooker closed down. Sure as hell looks nice. Now the question is, can I get this guy off of here easily enough and onto the cutting board? And the answer to that is a resounding yes. And we're gonna take a nice little piece. We're gonna do, it's funny, the two videos I watched, Sam the cooking guy and also Matt from Meat Church, you know, you can cut this, it's already spiral sliced, so you can get the big giant slices, which is what a lot of people like. But for us fat guys, we like the outside. Now this is again got that cherry, hot honey, bourbon, and sugar glaze. So I'm gonna take a couple of slices right down off the edge. And it's definitely juicy. And let's give it a taste. My cameraman's gonna get in there. You should probably come up here while we take the taste so people can see it. Oh, that's good. So, I can't claim cooking the ham. The ham was already cooked. But I get the pecan from the dry rub. I definitely get the glaze. There's a great sweetness, and the moisture is retained in the ham. So, this was a boring meal for me in the past, but being able to do it this way was a lot of fun. I recommend you give it a try and get creative with your glazes. Do a bunch of different ways. We had a lot of fun. If you enjoyed the video, please do like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all those things you're supposed to do. I've got a video coming out soon on reusing leftovers from barbecue because I don't think there's enough content about that. But until next time, thanks for watching the videos and thanks for the comments as well about the microphone. Hopefully you're not hearing me breathing like I'm running some kind of a marathon this time. If you are, let me know. If you're not, let me know. And we'll see you next time on Old School Eats.